Hey Isidore, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Lacey.
I'm excited. I've never talked about this topic on this show, and I love some of the posts you've been doing on LinkedIn. So it was wonderful that I caught one of them because I think this is a great topic to talk about. Before we get into trust, I want to know if you would start by telling us a little bit about how you started your career in finance, like what made you want to become a financial planner.
Oh, that might actually shock a lot of people. I never wanted to become a financial planner. Actually, never. It wasn't something that I thought of. You know how people grow up and say, "I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pilot or a firefighter." That was not me, and at least from the culture that I come from, it's not something that we're accustomed to. So when I came to the U.S., I really got my start in a restaurant as a busboy, and I worked my way up to managerial positions, and I spent a good decade in that industry, and I was pretty much set that that was going to be what I wanted to do. I love food. I'm a foodie. I love to cook. I didn't know I liked to be around people actually because I'm introverted. So yeah, so the restaurant industry really got me to explore all the aspect of my life and who I am as a person. And but around a decade into the industry, I remember having my one of my annual reviews for like pay increase. I didn't really like how that went because it was essentially I was being told that that was my ceiling for pay. And I was like, well, I didn't fly 7,000 miles to come to this country, and I was being told that this is it. So and I went to college for finance. Actually, I went to college twice because I came here with a bachelor in accounting, but quickly learned the U.S. doesn't take foreign degrees, so I had to like do undergrad all over again. And then so I went for corporate finance. I went to Temple University, and but once I was done with college, I kind of figured that I didn't want to work at a bank, and I also didn't want to, for lack of better term, end up on the floor of the stock market. I you know put a resume on Monster.com at that time, and I was looking for a job, and this guy reached out to me from MedLife Security and then say, hey, you might be a good candidate for this, and I went and interviewed for it, and I was hired then, and that was 2010, and then that's how I got into the industry, and with no clue whatsoever how the industry works, and so that was a few months into it. That was kind of like a rude awakening for me. But I'm a commitment guy, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to see this through. So that's how my career started. It really, for lack of a better term, it was really by accident.
Where are you from originally and what brought you to the US?
So I'm from Benin, so Republic of Benin, which is on the west coast of Africa, right next to Nigeria. We share many borders with Nigeria, which is probably the one of the largest country on the west coast. And I came here in 1999. I came here through an opportunity that I got from the sport that I actually played when I was home, when I was back home. Typically, when you come around, most Africans, we talk about soccer. That's the thing. But for me, I wasn't either good at soccer nor running. That's always in me. I wasn't a runner. I didn't have the lungs for it. But judo, which was the sport that I actually took on, ended up being something that I became really good at, and it helped me also with a lot of what do you call it? Issue that I had as a kid and being angry and have a short temper. It really helped me a lot with that, and so that I had an opportunity in June of '99 to We went for a national competition, and I won my division. And I was asked by the federation to be part of the national team. And they were putting a team together for the preparation for the 2004 Olympics in Greece. And then our first training camp was in Colorado Springs, here in the U.S. So that's how I got here, and then we were supposed to be here for 2 weeks. So we came and did our training camp. On our way back, we made a stop in Philly, stayed at one of our assistant coaches' home, who came here 6 months prior to me. And then the next training camp was supposed to be in Madrid. So everybody was getting on a bus heading to New York, and I didn't get on the bus. I took my chance.
You just decided not. Wait, you didn't go compete?
I didn't go to the next training camp.
Oh, the next training camp. You just decided to stay put in Philly.
I did. I decided to stay put in Philly. I had $10 to my name, and a bag of 2 pair of pants and couple shirts, and that was it.
Not a lot of people can relate to that story, that the risk that you took to be, I'm sure that was not comfortable, but that really is interesting that you're in financial planning and helping people manage risk and plan for it. And you took major risk. I mean, that's definitely not a lot of money, especially in Philly. $10, not a lot of money, not a lot of clothes options, and where are you going to stay? What are you going to do? So what did you decide after that? Was that when you started working in the restaurant industry?
Well, well, obviously $10 doesn't go very far. And so I think right around my first month, basically ran out of money. There's so much you can do with $10. Obviously I stayed with my assistant coach that was here at that time. There's no room in his house. It was just basically a 2-bedroom house with 10 people living in there. So, just sleep on the floor. And I had no idea. And this is how clueless I was when I came here. I really didn't know much about the U.S. I mean, I knew, the Bulls at that time, because, they were a global team, and about New York because it's on every hat, the logo is on every hat. But that was really all I knew about the U.S. when I came here. And so I didn't know it gets cold. I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea that it gets cold, and sleeping on the marble floor.
Oh, no.
Sleeping on the marble floor in low 2-digit and sometimes in a single digit, and you wake up in the morning basically frozen, and it was not pleasant. It definitely was not pleasant. But I was thrown to the fire that way, and then really I didn't give it a second thought. I knew there was no opportunity back home. I knew I couldn't go back and unless I wanted to work for the government, which is not something I wanted to do. So I had to do what I had to do, and then figure my way out. And then, fortunately for me, and I don't say for PD, I ran out of money, and I had a fallout with the person I was staying with, and I found myself on the street. And then you sleep on benches at a train station, and you pick food out of whatever you can and get by. And luckily that didn't last too long, and I got a job as a busboy and a dishwasher at a couple of restaurants under the table, and then kind of work my way up that way.
That's interesting that you have a very specific niche that you serve in financial planning, but it started because that community, you served in that community.
That's correct.
And you know what it's like. That's kind of similar to how I work, like helping the military community. I know what that's like. I've served, I grew up, and it's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's so interesting that you took that experience and passion, and also the motivation of, like, you're telling me this is the highest I could earn. I'm that way too. If that was you're putting a ceiling on me, I'd be like, no,
Yeah, and it
that's
wasn't really, yeah, and it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was just the idea of having a ceiling for someone like me, and probably most immigrants would feel that way, to come from so far and being told that this is the country of unlimited opportunity, and then be like, well, this is the limit for you. That just it just counterintuitive. But being in a restaurant, when I started in the industry, actually, I didn't really know. I didn't have a niche. I didn't even really know which direction to go. I was still learning, and I did what most advisors that come into the industry would do. Some life insurance here and there, open some small accounts, my English was still very bad. So it was a really really tough learning curve, and I was horrible on the phone. And I'm sure when people hear me on the other side of the phone, they probably don't understand what I said. So it was a lot of learning curve to get to over that hump. But when 5 years into the industry, I was like, you know what? I had to find something that I actually enjoy, and that I'm passionate about. And I wasn't 100% sure about the industry either. So, but I was already 5 years into it, so there's no going back. So I had to find something to connect both, and I was like, you know what, restaurant is what I know. I understand that industry. I know the dynamic of the business. I know how it works from managerial standpoint to business standpoint. I understand that. I can speak that language. Eventually, I kind of expand my wings and really work with any business at this point. Really, in general, just small business, family-owned businesses. That's my niche today.
I love that. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about something specific in financial planning, and that is trusts. That's something that people may hear of and think, I don't know, maybe that's only for really rich people.
Yeah.
That will never be something I need, or it's something I can't afford. So I thought this would be a really great topic. And I want to start with kind of the basic. What is a trust and how do they work?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. And I think even for me, those are instrument or part of the system here that I had to learn. Because where I came from, that is not part of a vocabulary. It's not even part of a system, to be quite quite frank with you. So I had to learn all these things, as I was coming into the industry. And even for my client, I mention this to them all the time. And English is not my first language. It's not my second or third either. So the way I process information is always when things are being presented to me, I have to basically break it apart in all the different languages, and I speak to make sure I understand the context in which it's being presented to me. So, and just trust in general. And you're right. There's a huge misconception around it, just like any estate planning document, is that rich people are the one that actually benefit from this, actually put them together and benefit from them. But it couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. If you have any level of asset or anything that needs to be protected for someone who is going to be depending on this particular asset, or this is a really powerful tool to use. And quite frankly, I won't get into like the technical definition of a trust. I would just say, just in the plain English, think about trust as a bubble wrap. Like when we're moving and we're trying to get to one location to another, we wrap our glasses in bubble wrap because you don't want them to break during that trip. It's the same thing, the same context you want to think about when you think about trust. It's a bubble wrap that's there to protect something that's really important to you. Now, how you use that thing that's in that bubble, it's up to you. And what is the purpose of it? It's different for everyone. But think about it as a bubble that's there to protect something that's really important to you, or your family, or your business, whatever the case may be. So once that bubble comes off, you don't have that protection anymore.
I love that analogy. I've never heard that before, but definitely helps you visualize what they're about. Can you give some examples of different types of trust? Because it's, like going to get ice cream, there's different flavors, and, some of them I think have different uses. So can you kind
That
of give some examples?
Yes, I mean, there's so many different type of trusts. You have trust that's specifically for family. So you have family trust that you can set up. You got trusts that are set up uniquely for charitable purposes. So you have charitable trusts, and you have trusts that are set up for probably multi-generation wealth. So you have those, generation skipping trusts that everybody talk about.
Trust fund
So
babies.
yeah, trust fund babies. Listen, I can't fault them if
Yeah, I would.
if you have a great grandparents who is Rockefeller or Carnegie, sure, absolutely. So yeah, so you say just high level. Those are probably trusts that most people hear about. ILET, irrevocable trust, revocable trust. But yeah, in a general sense of trust planning, those are probably the most that people hear a lot about or very accustomed to. You can get into different type of trust that are much more complex, but that just on a high level, that's what you want to be thinking about.
Yeah, so there's lots of different kinds, and each of them have a purpose
That is
depending
true.
on what your need is. You
Yes.
mentioned, can you explain the difference between what irrevocable and revocable trusts are?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm not an attorney. I don't claim to be one. I never
Yes.
went to law school. But
I think you've done enough school. You don't you don't need to do any more. You did it twice.
but in a sense of the two different types of trust, irrevocable trust, for example, which is it could be a simple trust or complex trust, and that trust is particularly used in non-industry in the financial planning realm as a way to protect an asset that you essentially want to take out of your estate, right, for tax planning purposes. And in that sense, you basically, in a way, give up control of that asset for the benefit of someone else other than you, the grantor who set it up. And on the revocable side is basically a trust that's set up primarily to benefit you, the person who actually who it is set up for, whether it's to provide income while you live in, whether it's to protect certain asset, the income generating asset that will benefit you during your lifetime, and that can be reversed at any time if you don't have a need for it. So those are generally on a high level the two type of trust that most of us come across.
You kind of led to this, and it's two questions that kind of go together. So I'm going to give them to you both, and then we'll see where it goes. But what
Shoot.
comes first, financial planning or legal planning? Because, like you said, this
Ooh.
is through a trust is set up by an attorney. But
Yes.
then the other part of that question is, what roles do trusts play in financial planning? How, in your role, how do you help people with that?
Yes, and I'm going to be biased. So there's really no right or wrong answer whether you should do the legal document first or the financial planning first. My bias come when most people that go and sit in an office with an attorney to either talk about establishing a trust or any type of legal document don't have a really clear picture of what the financial really look like, the entire picture of the financials. So I will typically encourage people to meet with a financial advisor, a financial planner, to kind of sort out the asset and figure out, what's what, how the title, who is it going to, who's is serving, what's the purpose of it. And then, so for my clients, for example, I will essentially have what I'll call a balance sheet that's already done, vetted, and we'll go through it. And they have that piece of paper they can go with to the attorney and be like, this is what I have, this is how they're titled, this is when they were set up, this is what it's for, and then this is what my wishes are in regard to the trust that I want to set up, and the attorney will be able to advise them what trust is adequate or fits what they're trying to do. So I think for most people it's probably beneficial to take out the financial first before you go meet with the attorney, because when you get to the attorney, they're going to ask you this question anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well be ready when you get there.
So a trust, I mean, there's just so many reasons you could do it, but I think it has to probably do with who you are. Can you touch just for a minute on special needs trust? Because I think in the military community, that's one thing that impacts a lot of people, is having children with special needs. And as a parent, you want to take care of your kid even after your death, like especially your children most likely are going to outlive you, but if your child has special needs, how is that child going to be taken care of after you're gone?
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. I think not many financial planners in our industry are very well versed in special needs planning. It's a niche in our industry that a lot of us don't even know about. Obviously, in the current environment, you hear a lot about it just because of all the different disability organizations that are out there that are really promoting trust planning for family that have children or adults with disability. When I started in the industry, and again, special need is not my bailiwick, it's not my specialty, but I was lucky enough to work under, to be mentored by another advisor when I started in the industry, who that was his thing. That was essentially his market. That's what he, and it was a way for me to get a leg up in the industry. So I learned everything I need to be learned about it, and I know it, in and out. So when you think about someone with disabilities, essentially someone who may not have a voice to make decision, to decide what's in their best interest going forward, or even make a decision regarding the quality of life and care going forward. So being able to have instruments that you can put together that will be able to fulfill those goals and roles into the future, it's key. Because at the end of the day, as long as both parents are still living, they'll do whatever they can to provide for that child. But what happens when those parents are gone? That's the big question. Are there family members that are around that will fill into those shoes? And sometimes I think we are nice by nature and we want to please family members, and we volunteer to do this really important job, but you don't live it 24/7. You only go to like birthdays or special events or Thanksgiving dinner. So you only see that person in a really small window. But when you in it 24/7, it's a different story. So people don't think about how that may disrupt their life, professionally and personally. The dynamic between having something like that being introduced into your family, how it would change the dynamic of your entire family, and the stress level to deal with finances, government benefit, and all those things. So it's a really big responsibility. So for families that either have family members that want to play that role, what I would call morally obligated gift is say, you know what, hey, your son is my nephew, is my cousin. When you die, I'll take him or her in, or take him in, and it's nice when you say that, but when it happens, it's a whole different conversation. So you want to have plans in place for that person to still play that role, but not 24/7, not being the one making those financial decisions going forward, or being the caregiver, and give that person freedom to say, you know what, my life is so busy, I still want to be involved, but I can use this trust to hire care management companies, to hire help, to engage in the services of a firm, to do all those things that needs to be done to provide the best quality of life for that person for whom the trust is set up in the first place.
Are trusts expensive? I mean, we talked about how often people assume they're for rich people. Are they expensive? And then also, when do you know when it's time to make that investment for the bubble wrap? To say, maybe I want to protect my home. Maybe I have a blended family and we have some different dynamics, and you're trying to protect those things for when you're
Correct.
gone or incapacitated. But when do you know to spend the money?
Well, I mean, and again, this is also another bias of mine. I think that is probably the single best investment you can make when it comes to asset protection. And that can be expensive depending on the complexity of your situation, the level of asset that you have to protect, and the different layers that are involved in that. But in general, they're not, for most of us, they're not at the level of an ultra wealthy. They're not really that expensive. I think with couple $1,000, you can actually set up a decent trust by a qualified estate planning attorney that will essentially play that role that you want it to play. And I think on the flip side, the other misconception with trust is that people think that the trust need to be funded right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, can you explain what that is, funding of them, real quick?
Yes. So you don't necessarily have to fund a trust right now. In most cases, it's and I'll use an analogy of a car. It's basically a chassis that you have that's there waiting for the body of the car to be put on top of it when it's ready for production, whatever the yeah. So it's something that you have that's sitting there to receive asset at a particular time that it will fulfill that role. So a trust doesn't necessarily have to be funded while you're still alive. If you need that trust to generate income while you're still alive, that's a different story. Then you can fund it with, whether it's a bank account, cash, security stocks, income generating asset like a rental properties, and things like that. But if you don't have a need for it, if it's not for your own benefit now, it doesn't necessarily have to be funded. It's just sitting there waiting for that asset that will be passed on to whomever you set up the trust for, the beneficiary, who's going to have the need at that particular time. And it could be 30 years down the road, 10 years down the road, whatever the case is. So, and I think that's also another misconception when people think about trust. They think that it needs to be funded now, but not necessarily.
Yeah, so you basically, like, example, if you were going to put a house in there, for the future, you don't necessarily have to fund it with the house. It could just be the legal trust document.
Exactly. It could be it could be the legal document now, and obviously depending on the type of asset, would detail whether or not and also depending on who is going to enjoy the benefit of those assets, would dictate whether or not that trust needs to be funded now or funded for the future. And if you're talking about income generating trust, then yes, you want to have an asset that actually generate income. Because if you have an asset that doesn't produce income, what's the point? So yes, and that's typically what the two way that you want to look at it, whether you want it for present time enjoyment or it is for the future.
What are some common mistakes you see in financial planning that people make with trusts?
Well, in financial planning, the common mistake that I see, number one is trust owning assets sometimes that don't necessarily need to be owned now. And then the intention is that the intention is good, and probably that advisor, whomever it is not experienced enough to know that asset should not be owned now by the trust because you're probably giving up control. if it's a irrevocable trust, for example. And if it's if it's a revocable trust and is owning the asset now, yes. But if the purpose of the asset is not really to benefit you today, so what's the point of putting it in there? So yeah, so you really have to be careful when you decide to advise someone whether or not the trust needs to own the asset now, or maybe simply put the trust as a beneficiary of the asset down the road to receive the asset later when the person who is enjoying the present time benefit has no longer have the need for it. And also, and I think some of the mistake that I see too is certain trusts, in particular, especially in the trust, they're not very flexible in terms of being changing with time and circumstances, and so someone who doesn't understand probably the language of that trust may not know that this is not a trust that's well put together, and then advise the client to maybe consult with another attorney and get a second opinion, making sure that trust is actually essentially what they wanted to do is being put on paper the right way. So and so that's very a really tricky part when it comes to dealing with trust, is not only having the right trust, but having the right asset in it, and being owned properly, own those assets properly, and also if in a case it has to be a beneficiary of an asset, also being able to title that in a way that it actually plays that beneficiary roles.
Yes, I think all the things you're saying just drive home the importance of meeting with a financial planner and an estate planning attorney. It's almost like you guys really do have to work as a team to make that the right fit for a person, to make sure that they're doing all the things right for their money side of things. And then also, you don't want to make that investment and, like you said, set something up wrong or have the wrong asset in it. Yeah. So I think that's good insight for everybody.
And I think that's a key point that you brought up, is truly for those of us that take a lot of pride in our fiduciary responsibility as CFPs and certified financial planners, it's being able to have that open mindset to collaborate with other professionals. I can't tell you how much I learn when I'm in a meeting with attorneys. They're really speaking the language, and then seeing the different aspect of the way we use legal document financial planning compared to the way they do it in the legal sense of the term. It's night and day. I mean, it's so much that you learn when you sit there in those meetings, just listening to them talking about why it needs to be set up this way or that way, why the asset need to be owned this way or that way, and then you kind of go back and forth with those ideas and come to a consensus. Okay, this is what, with the client agreement, this is what is best going forward. And I think for those of us in the industry that are not open-minded for that kind of collaboration, you in a way kind of like selling yourself short, because you're not learning, you're not growing, and you're certainly not doing the right thing for your client. For that matter, you're not providing the best that you can, the best resources that are available. So it's crucial to have that collaboration when you deal with client of a certain level of complexity. When it comes to legal, taxes, we know as planners high level how those things work. But I'm not a CPA, so I don't know what goes on in the world of taxes on a day-to-day basis. So I need a CPA to kind of guide me on certain things just as much as I need an attorney to guide me, and they need me too to help them with certain things that we're working on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not everybody's an expert on every single thing, and having a team, that's does those things day in and day out, let them do their job and do it well. I mean, I would expect them to do it well, but
Exactly.
that's helpful to know, that not expecting, again, like a financial planner, to know every single thing about taxes
You can't.
or estate planning, things like that. So
Yeah.
that's good for people to know when they're hiring.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to know everything. We don't even know everything that needs to be known about our own industry first before we even get to somebody else's. You certainly don't want to be the jack of all trade. No, you find something that you enjoy within the industry, and then bring on other folks that have the level of expertise or enjoy those aspects of the planning process, and bring them into the fold, obviously with the client's approval, and to bring the best that you can to the table.
I want to switch gears for a second and ask you some quick random questions I ask
Yeah.
everybody. First off, what is one resource or tool that you use that makes your life or work easier?
Resource or two. In what sense?
Whether it's an app or food ordering service, or just something that you use on the daily that really helps you. Like I use a food scale all the time to,
Yes.
make sure I'm staying on track. Or we love our air fryer.
Well, as a foodie, I can certainly tell you I don't weigh my food. I don't weigh my food. One resource that really helped me on a day-to-day basis, I have an app on my phone. I don't even remember what it's called. That kind of send me every morning some motivational
Oh, like a motivational quote
or something like that. And the reason why I did it is not something that even my wife even knows about. I never even told her that. The reason
I
why
don't know if
did
she
it-
listens to the show, so I think it's still safe.
But the reason why I did it is, I'm one of those people that, and you probably heard about the term future self, right? And I'm one of those people who doesn't seem to have a picture of what my future self looks like. So it makes it difficult for me to some extent to kind of plan things for myself, or even know what I'm going to do when it comes to my personal life. And obviously part of my journey here in the U.S. is I had some trauma with life here and learning English and dealing with different type of issues that when I was in the restaurants and I was busy, I didn't have time to think about, and I was going to school and I didn't have a lot of time on my hand. But when I graduated from college and left the industry and doing this now, and also becoming a father and a family man, I felt a lot of pressure on me to deliver. So that kind of took a negative toll on my health. And I did a lot of self-doubting and second-guessing things. So I kind of used that in a way to kind of remind me sometime that, hey, it's going to be okay, all right? Today's going to be a good day. Forget about yesterday, just focus on the future. There's a reason why you came here, There's a reason why you still have your family, even though you think you don't have the life that you want, but at least you have your health, you have your family, and you're still breathing. So
That
so
sounds
yes,
like a really great tool then, like to help mindset to start your day.
That's true.
With the right intention, because I feel like then everything kind of follows suits after that. If you start your day off on the wrong foot, then it kind of goes that way. But starting with that app and using it, I think that's a great resource. Well, I'll get that from you later, and I'll be sure to link it in the
All
show
right, sounds
notes
good.
for people, so we know exactly which one. Also, what is your favorite book right now, or your favorite book of all time?
Ooh, full disclosure, and this hopefully doesn't come back and haunt me. I actually don't enjoy reading.
You don't?
I don't enjoy reading, believe it or not. But I do force myself to read because it's important. Reading put me to sleep. I don't know why.
Me too.
I don't know why. When I was in college, it was really tough. But also part of that is my brain works differently. Things are just racing in my head. So I always have a difficult time kind of slowing my brain down to kind of focus on what I'm doing, which I'm working on. I read a few books in the past. I think one probably I read that in college was Rocky Flat. That was talking about the tension between the U.S. and the USSR at that time, the Soviet Union, and the Cold War, and then the project. If I remember correctly, in Colorado, there's this entire complex underground. There's like this the central intelligence place to kind of have backdoor deals and backdoor strategies to kind of fend off the Soviet. Hence the reason why it never became a real war, but it was kind of like a war in the background that most of us really never knew what was happening. So that was one of my favorite books. Another one that I actually really love, I think that was written by Nora. Oh, what's her name?
Nora Roberts?
No. How can I remember that book?
Well, let me pause. This one's good. You don't have to come up with another one. That was good.
And that book essentially was very good because Nora was an immigrant, and then she wrote a book about how immigrants view America, and then the things they deal with, and the challenges that we have when we come here. And one particular aspect of the book that really touched me was when I came here. I think it was the first winter that we had, and I didn't know how cold it was outside. But I opened the window, I opened the blind, and it was sunny. So I was like, "Oh, it's a nice day." And I opened the door and came out, and I was like, "Oh my Lord, it's really cold." So it's very deceiving.
Yes.
That, from the inside, it's sunny and shiny outside, but then when you come out, it's a completely different reality. It was so cold that day. So that really messed with my mind. I was like, how is that possible? How is that possible that the sun is out and it looks like what I see when I wake up in the morning when I was back home, and then when you come outside, it's a completely different. You deal with a completely different temperature. So that was one that stuck with me. Recently, I read a book called The Future Self, and that also was a very good book. It was actually recommended by one of my business coach. So that I truly enjoyed that. I'm gonna send you information about it. I think you definitely enjoy that book when you read it.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll be sure to link to all of those in the show notes for everybody. Yeah. Now it is time for my favorite part of the podcast, which is game time. And today, in honor of your visit, we are going to be playing trivia, but we're going to be playing judo trivia.
Oh, my God.
I came up with 5 questions with the help of the internet on judo. They are multiple choice, and if there's 5, if you get 3 out of the 5 correct, you get bragging rights that you won game time on the Military Money Show.
All right. Well, hope I don't embarrass myself.
Well,
I think I still remember a lot of the things.
I don't know any of this stuff. So, all right. Number 1, which country is traditionally credited with the development of judo? Is it A, Japan, B, China, or C, South Korea?
Oh, Japan all the way.
Okay, yes, that is correct. Number 2, what does judo mean in Japanese? Is it A, the way of the fist, B, the gentle way, or C, the art of flexibility?
The gentle way.
Okay, yes. I think that I didn't know that. That's really nice that's what it means.
It is the gentle way, yes.
Number 3, who is considered the founder of judo? Now, I want to say I'm going to butcher some of these names, so I'm really sorry in advance to everybody. Who is considered the founder of judo? Is it A, Bruce Lee, B, Kano Jigoro, or C, Miyamoto Musashi?
Oh, come on. It's Jigoro Kano.
Okay, is that how he said? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for saying it correctly.
He is the father of judo. Absolutely.
Okay. Bruce Lee was the only one that I could pronounce decently.
That's a whole different discipline.
Yes. Number 4, in judo, what is the ultimate goal when executing a throw or a takedown? Is it A, to injure the opponent, B, to pin the opponent in 10 seconds, or C, to off balance and control the opponent?
Ooh, so A is definitely out.
Okay.
So what B?
To pin the opponent in 10 seconds. And then
And
C,
C.
to off balance and control the opponent.
So B is the other half of judo, which is the grunt work.
Oh, okay.
And then C is probably the most popular one, which is the standing, where you off balance people and control all the way to scoring. So I probably will go with C.
C is correct in what I found on the internet.
Yes.
Okay, number 5. What is the colored belt ranking system in judo typically called? Is it A, degrees, B, ranks, or C, Caillou and Dan? I know I probably said that wrong. K-Y-U and Dan.
Q.
What is it?
Q and then.
Q and Dan. Okay.
Yeah, C.
That is correct. You got all 5 correct, so you definitely have bragging
At
rights.
least I know something, right?
Yes, yes. So we all learned a lot about judo
everything
today.
I learned.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Isidore, for playing the game and for being on the show. Can you tell everybody listening where they can learn more about you and what you're doing?
Well, if anybody wants to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Or even visit a firm website, www.afallc.com. Yeah, those are probably the YouTube is something I'm using a lot now. I had it for as long as I've been into this industry, and I never really used it for its purpose. So I made a goal this year, just like we were talking last time, to say, let me focus on the one thing that I'm going to work on and see it through. And so this is the challenge I posed myself this year. So to have one channel that I'm actually going to get good at and market myself that way. So yeah, so that's primarily for business. That's what I use. I don't do much on Facebook business-wise, or my Instagram is simply for my food display, pictures of the food that I cook.
That sounds delicious.
That's really what it's for, and
Well,
family time. So.
Well, I'll be sure to link to all of that in the show notes for everybody. Thank you again. I appreciate you being here.